Welcome to eHealth Learning, inspiring professionals worldwide.
The posterior oblique subsystem. So let's look at that because this is terminal stance now. And we don't spend a ton of time here, but it is a very powerful stage. It is a power generating stage. We haven't talked a lot about power yet, right? We've talked about stability. We talked about deep longitudinal subsystem, and we talked about it maintaining relative stability in the sagittal plane. We talked about lateral subsystem, which has nothing to do with power and everything to do with stability for power. And then we talked about terminal stance, which is ending mid stance, and then letting the DLS still control sagittal so that we can go into a POS where there's other extensors involved. So let's take a look at this because this is where power is born. We're talking about the strongest muscle of the lower extremity, which is gluteus maximus here on the left, and the strongest muscle in the upper extremity, which is latissimus dorsi on the right. And look at how Danny's gorgeous drawing shows you there are these weird green and yellow lines here. Remember, green for us in ID means go. It means primary synergist, the big things that provide stability through the pelvis, through force closure and opening of the SIJ. Now, if you see this coming across, you know that these muscles are connected to each other through the thoracolumbar aponeurosis. Now, I don't know how much education you guys have on the thoracolumbar aponeurosis, but it is not just what you see here. That is the aponeurosis, which means broad flat tendon, which means connects one thing to another, right? Especially regarding musculature. But the aponeurosis is actually collagenated here for muscular attachment, for lat, for glute, and then more anterior laminates are for things like multifidus, lumbar erectors, and for the transverse abdominis and the internal abdominal oblique. So 6 muscles have attachments to the thoracolumbar aponeurosis, and then that fascia is interwoven in multiple areas. And in ID1, it takes us an hour and a half to even just talk about that alone. So I won't, go into too much detail about that just because I think it would distract us. But the whole point is that your entire being of force generation has culminated from stability from your intrinsic system through transverse abdominis, internal abdominal oblique attaching to this aponeurosis, through the DLS, which is a combination of 2 muscles that actually contribute to intrinsic stability of lumbar lordosis, which is multifidus and lumbar erectors, and then force transferred into unilateral stabilization through the DLS, multifidus and erectors on one side. And now all of that has culminated from mid-stance, from loading response and into mid-stance, into the moment of terminal stance, which is power. Think about the back leg of Usain Bolt, the back leg of his push-off. If you've ever watched him run in slow-mo, you are looking at his back leg. You are mesmerized by that back leg because that is the culmination of power. But if you don't have stability to support power, it will eat you up and you'll put parking brakes on the system. And that's what happens in the POS.